Sharon Bowles is the leader of the Liberal Democrats in the European Parliament. She's also head of the Economic and Monetary Affairs Committee. Welcome to the programme. And I wanted to immediately pick up on what David has been saying there. Does the UK want to have the ability to have more than 7%? Is 7% just not enough, by your view, of how much core capital banks should own?
Well, we're going to be at an interim 9% anyway before long, so it's a little bit silly then to go back to 7%. The UK wants Basel implemented as it's proposed as a minimum requirement, and then if you want to have more than that, member states should be able to do that. The Commission is saying no, they want it to be a maximum level because they think that it can distort the single market. That if one country says, well, we want more capital, then what happens is it sucks it out of the subsidiaries in other countries that may be elsewhere within Europe, and that's their argument. And both in the Council and the Parliament, it is raging as to, well, what do we do? How do we deal with this? The end result is undoubtedly going to be what we call some kind of constrained discretion, so that the UK would be able to have higher capital levels to meet the special kind of problems we have. We've got big banks, we've got a very concentrated retail sector, but they're probably going to have to ask permission to do it, which rankles a little bit with our regulators who want to be able to do what they think they should.
So in the end then, is this going to represent a sort of a transfer of power to Brussels to set these regulations if the UK is actually having to go to ask permission for it? Is that the rankle? Or?
Well, it depends whether you call it a transfer of powers, because we agreed that we were going to have the sort of supervisory architecture and all these kinds of things. And of course, we've had a single market in financial services for a long time. These are not new powers that came in under Lisbon or anything else. It's under the ordinary co-decision procedure, and so we can. These powers have already always been there. It's not a transfer. It's just the way in which it is implemented. But yes, our supervisors in this country now are not making absolutely the rules. They're going to be made across the EU. And I mean, we've complained about it in the past. I mean, all the problems that we've had with MiFID and Spain not having implemented MiFID, so the boiler room scams operated in the UK. If we have rules that are made across the EU and by regulation, so they go straight in, that dispenses with those problems. So it's just we don't like it when we feel we're on the receiving end.
You want to bring more transparency to the banks. You're particularly concerned about collateral, using a lot of their assets to back the likes of covered bonds and ways and ECB funding as well. But if we can't use some of their assets to access this funding, are you not just more concerned that banks that are currently trapped out of the market can't access debt, can't access the money that they need? Is it more concern to a depositor that your bank just exists?
Well, I think we need to understand what covered bonds are, and covered bonds mean one thing in one country and another in another. So there are several of us who would like to have defined standards for covered bonds, and the UK would very much like that too. With regards to repos and other matters like that, then I think that we need to make sure that when we're accepting a repo as a definition of liquidity, that it should be, if you like, a proper one on a properly regulated market or on an approved market. At the moment, we've got what I've dubbed originate to repo, where lots of stuff is swept together, repo it with a friend, magically acquire a higher rating. That's not a very good measure of liquidity or good assets. It smacks too much of where we've been before. So I think as we move forward and deal with shadow banking, we will be looking at these issues. But repo reporting, securities lending reporting, there's absolutely no reason why we can't incorporate those into CRD now. So the Parliament is being a little bit more adventurous, and we intend to be doing that and a few other things as well.
More consistency across in terms of what a covered bond is and how we're using the funds to access more money. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.